the renaming of the term staking. Okay, so he's talked about that recently, and yeah, I'm sure there's no secret really here. I think it's likely because of the way that whispers he's been hearing, maybe not even whispers, maybe just flat out screams, that the SEC is coming after like that term and that idea. And it's not like it's just HEX has used that. That's something that's been used amongst all DeFi protocols. It's been used against CeFi protocols. And they're the ones that have actually taken people's money.
Right.
So, staking your Ethereum, staking whatever on a CeFi, like a Celsius or even like a Kraken, which you're no longer allowed to do in the United States. But so that's not like a unique term to HEX by any remote stretch of the imagination. But I like where he's going with this to try to rebrand it and get ahead of some of the crap that the SEC is really going to be honing in on over the next few years with regulation in crypto. So what do you make of it? What do you think? I don't really care what it's called. I think it's kind of a silly thing to talk about, I guess. But, for branding, which HEX is big on, and it's part of the reason it does so well. I mean, for Christ's sake, the name of that documentary was going to be The Highest of Stakes. I don't know if that's still the case or what.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what do you make of that? I mean, how important of a thing do you think this is? What is it? What is maybe an accurate term to call it for what the action is you're actually doing? Because Richard is right. I mean, it is you interacting with a contract. You're not getting paid by somebody else or anything. You've chosen to lock up tokens for X amount of time, which you are printing this reward for yourself because you've decided to do that. So,
yeah. So I think a couple things. I think the word staking is starting to confuse people because of the regulatory actions that were taken against the CeFi stakers. So it could lead maybe some bad information or confusing information for people that are trying to onboard when we would say staking, for example. And then, they hear, well, I heard they're really cracking down on staking, so better not do that. So I think it's more that than anything. Just to compare it to mining, he has always compared it to mining Bitcoin. And it really is more of a virtual miner. It explains it better than I think staking does, only because of how the contract works. You do mint your inflation. And that's what miners do is they perform code, and it mints inflation, and that's how it's brought into existence. So I think that is more accurate. And then it was changed again. So now we're not mining, we're actually publishing, or we're smurfing, or whatever we're doing. I don't think it really matters. But we need to figure something out and be consistent with it. You've got all these people, and I have a couple myself that say stake HEX and do this or whatever. I think the hex.com site was fixed, but the go.hex.com was not.
That's what Pip just said in the chat.
Yeah. I see it says go hex, still says stake. So I don't know, and I really don't think it's important. It's semantics at this point. But again, we need to all be consistent, I think, is where we need to go with it. And just call it whatever we're going to call it. We all need to be on the same page. And he hasn't been overly clear with that. Maybe he doesn't want to decide. Maybe he wants to let the community decide what kind of sticks, what works best. I don't know. I think it, again, I think it was more about the regulations that are happening with the CeFi staking, that he didn't want to be included into the discussions of that and just be lumped in. All staking now is bad. Well, that's not really the case, because DeFi staking is fine. You have all these even old QT wallets that have staking that still work, and that's how you get paid to to hold the nodes. You know, a lot of cryptocurrencies kind of started that way. I remember, you know, whether they had master nodes or single nodes, but they were stakers. So I don't know. I think it's more just to stay out of the crosshairs as much as possible.
Right.
Why draw attention if you don't need it? If they're already coming down on staking, change the term. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's clearly to get ahead of these things, and I would want to depart myself from it too. I mean, like, even though it's mainly CeFi that have gotten everybody in trouble and taken everybody's money over the last couple of years, really, if you've lost it in DeFi for the most part, it's probably something that you did wrong, or just,
Yeah.
getting involved with the wrong kinds of things that you didn't see the writing on the wall. But yeah, I would want to separate myself from the term as much as possible if they're going to, be like that about it. And I do think mining makes a lot of sense. I mean, that it's pretty much, that's what kind of HEX is like the better version of Bitcoin, and mining the tokens without having, a rig in your home and wasting all this electricity and stuff like that, and being proof of mine. I don't know. But yeah. So I think that's an interesting word for it. Although I don't think they like miners either. They don't like anybody. So what are you
No,
going
they
to do?
don't. I don't know that you can win.
Right. Yeah. I don't know either as far as words on a paper. But yeah, I do understand why he's doing it. We'll kind of see how it progresses. I do think it benefits them as much as I don't care what it's called either. I do think it benefits him and Hex, and probably other DeFi protocols too, to come up with an agreed upon thing to somehow separate yourself from whatever idea the SEC has. I think that is kind of important. So